I'm just going to share with you some nuggets that I've learned along the way as far as leadership and communication. But before I start, by a raise of hands, how many of you have had conflicts on the job? Okay. Conflicts in Toastmasters? One, two, okay. And conflicts at home. Very good. Of course, of course. So today is the lucky day for all of you. We're going to talk about how to resolve conflicts through the art of communication and leadership. Let me give you some working definitions that I will be using in this presentation. Leadership can be best described by John Maxwell, who said that leadership is influence individuals, nothing more, nothing less. Communication is active listening and communicating your thoughts. As Roberto mentioned, I have had a lot of experience with conflict resolution, from working in social work to Toastmaster International. That district governor was a $300,000 job without the pay. And also in a program that I took over after my district governor year. Many people saw that I was doing some wonderful things in Toastmasters for over 7 years. And so they invited me to take over this struggling program. Now, one of the things that we know in Toastmasters is that we know to say yes, but we also have to ask questions. And so I was a very good Toastmaster worker. I said, okay, tell me about this program. Is it written and embedded with conflict? They said, no, just a little bit. I said, will it require that I do 30 hours or more? They said, no, give and take, but you just have to do a little bit. So after a number of people encouraged me to sign up and lead this group, just like Toastmasters, I learned the truth. You know, like when they ask you to come on for district leadership and you say, okay, is it a lot of work? No, just a little bit of work. Is it going to take a lot of my time? No, just a little bit of your time. And then when you get in it, you're like, oh my goodness, this is a lot more than I anticipated. So I'm going to be sharing with you again, I'm going to be drawing from how I built this program up from 6 people to 60 individuals within a few years, and then how I led the district to #1 in the nation. I'm not a nation, but within the United States. And my hope is that you will be able to apply this to work, family, or Toastmasters. Okay, so one of the things that when we look at conflict, we have to make sure that we don't blame individuals. One of the quickest ways to destroy a group, the morale of an organization, is to begin to do the blame shame game. And that's what I saw to be very prevalent in the legacy program that I took over, as well as Toastmasters leading into #1. When I took over that Toastmasters in District 1, it was in the bottom 10%. Every year there's a matrix that people have to follow, and if you follow this matrix, then you will hopefully lead your district or your club to #1. So it had a lot of problems, and one of the main reasons that it had problems is because it was minimizing, people were minimizing, trivializing, and discrediting individuals as professionals. And again, what I learned is #1 is that you don't blame the personalities. Yes, personalities, you can have personality conflicts, but when you look in terms of if you look beneath the iceberg, so to speak, you'll find that there are some structural things that need to be modified in order to bring about a level of productivity. And so I'm going to repeat like the different steps, and then I need you to kind of repeat after me. So let's go again. Step number one is to understand the personality. Step number one is what? To understand the personalities. In every role, you're going to have supporters and detractors. When you're in a position of influence, you will have people who will support you, but then you also may have detractors. And the detractors basically is related to what the relationship is like with power. Sometimes you have people who will minimize you for no reason at all, just because they needed to boost themselves up off of the discreditation of a person in a powerful position. In the discredited individuals, I found two different types of discreditors. One would be the bullies, and the bullies' goals are to hurt the individuals. A bully's goal is to hurt the individuals. However, when that happens, not only do they hurt the individuals, but they hurt the organization. When I was in the role of regional advisors, I would see very smart, intelligent individuals who would have personality clashes, but oftentimes it would be ridden with bullies. Where they say, okay, this club is not going to be distinguished because I don't like this particular person, or this district is not going to be distinguished because I don't want this person to be successful. And in the end, it hurts the organization. The second type of detractor that I've seen is related to what we call the Peter Principle. And the Peter Principle is basically when you rise to the level of incompetency. And when you rise to the level of incompetency, sometimes people hide behind their work. Sometimes they would take credit for others' work, and then they'll try to minimize the one that has done or achieved all of the productivity. The problem with incompetency is, again, it brings down the morality of the group. And when the morale is down, it's hard to move the group forward. So step number one is to understand what? Understand the personalities. Step number two is asking the right questions to the right people. Step number two is what? Asking the right question to the right people. What they have taught us in Toastmasters is that you have area directors, and the area directors are responsible for discussing with the president what are the dynamics of the group, how are they producing, what are their goals. But a good area director knows that you don't stop at leadership, that you have to also speak with the members and encourage the members to do a reflection. And they used to call it moments of truth. Moments of truth is basically when the whole club analyze and examine the practices so they can figure out what is needed. For example, this club is a very good club, but if people were not producing, there's a reason why. It's called Pathways. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. So it's critical when you're in leadership. You have to be able to ask the question, and it's through asking the questions that you begin to get a big picture of what are the strengths of the organization and what are the weaknesses. You can also apply this to family, education, and so forth. When I took on the position of the director of the legacy program at Cypress College, remember I shared at the beginning that it was struggling. I knew I was in for a wonderful adventure when nobody wanted to talk about the problems and the issues in that program. I would talk to the students and they'd start running. I was like, that's not a good sign. Or I would talk to other individuals who were alienated from the program because of so many conflicts, and they would also do the stonewalling and not have any dialogue at all. We're all experts at in our little groups, in our families, but we have to make sure that you ask the right questions to the right people. And so point number two is what? Ask the right questions to the right people. And the third one is to clarify the roles and responsibilities. The third point in resolving conflict is what? To clarify roles and responsibilities. The third point is what? To clarify roles and responsibilities. I believe that this little poem can capture what happens when you don't clarify the roles and responsibilities. This is a story of four people. Those four individuals are called everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done. Everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it. Nobody realized that everybody wouldn't have done it. In the end, that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have. The beauty of Toastmasters is everything is prescriptive. And we have what is called the TLIs, Toastmasters Learning Institute, twice a year. And it is critical that not only new members go, but also veterans. When you're in a position very long, for a very great length of time, it is so easy to say, okay, this is the way things have always been done, and no one questions like whose responsibility is it to really do that particular task. And that is again where you have a much conflict when you have too many people doing too many jobs, or when you have one person doing all of the work. One of the beauties that I've seen with this club, not only was it today, but when I came here several years ago, was that your agendas, you stick to it. You make sure that the mission statement is always read. In fact, that's what you do in any type of organization. You make sure that everyone understands the vision and the mission, because people love to say, okay, well, I'm going to take charge, and it doesn't open up the door for newer people if you don't divide those responsibilities. And that's what I've seen in coaching so many clubs over the years, is that those clubs that are struggling, they usually have one person that the entire club the back of that person keeps the entire club going. But if that person is sick or for whatever reason has to relocate, then the club falls altogether. So it's critical that everything that we do, there's a vision, there's a mission, and people understand the roles and responsibilities. And if they don't, that there's a level of training that goes on. With the program that I was asked to take on, there was nothing written. And when things fell apart, it was everybody, anybody, somebody type of dynamics. And so it's critical that is made clear at every meeting, and you can do that like we do in Toastmasters, which would be making sure there's an agenda for every meeting. And I want to include this quote. I heard a few Christians in the room. There's a biblical scripture that says, my people will perish because of a lack of knowledge. Yep. And that's critical when we look at organizations. Why do they falter? Because of lack of knowledge of roles and responsibilities, as well as vision. Step number 3 is to clarify what? Roles and responsibilities. And step number 4 is critical mass. Step number 4 is what? Critical mass. Critical mass is basically when you're able to identify your allies. You're going to have individuals that will always be supportive of you. The bigger that the organizations are, the more that you have to have allies at every level. What makes, again, that story so fascinating about leading a district to a certain level is that it was the hardships and the obstacles that they had to overcome. There were people who were saying, hey, Regina, you don't know how to communicate and you don't know how to lead, and our district is doomed for failure. The exact same thing when they took on the struggling program. People said, oh, this program has been struggling for the last 17 years and it will struggle again. And people begin to act as though that is truth. And so it is important that you find out and have relationships and communicate with the people at the bottom of the chain, and that can be administrative support. Communicate with people within your media circle, and then also communicate with people outside of your group. And that's what happened, and why the momentum Let's Grow occurred in 2013, 2014. It wasn't because everyone said, hey, we love this person, we want to see this person successful. No, it was strategically identifying who are the allies that will continue to feed energy into the goals and the visions of that particular year. Step number 4 is knowing the critical mass. Step number 4 is what? Know the critical mass. And then step number 5 is to participate in active listening. God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Oftentimes people will say, okay, well, let me just speak, and they don't listen. We're going to do a little small exercise, and I believe we have an even number of individuals. I'm going to show you the power of listening. Each person pair up with another person. Okay. For 1 minute, one person speaks, the other person cannot ask any questions, cannot try to clarify, but one person you talk about whatever your heart desires.